Night work on highways follows a different operational logic than daytime work. The same roads, signs, and signals remain in place, but the environment surrounding them changes enough that their function is no longer identical. Traffic volume decreases, visibility narrows, and decision feedback becomes delayed. During the day, traffic signals coordinate large numbers of road users moving at different speeds and priorities. At night, that coordination role weakens. Many signals continue operating even when the conditions they were designed for no longer exist. Night shift drivers do not experience the road as a static rule system. They experience it as a dynamic environment with incomplete information. Decisions are shaped less by formal instruction and more by repeated exposure to similar conditions. This leads to a noticeable pattern: certain signals are treated differently after dark. Understanding why requires examining how night shift road professions organize routine, evaluate risk, and maintain consistency under reduced visibility. Nighttime road environments compress information. Headlights create narrow visual corridors that limit perception of distance and motion. Objects outside the beam effectively disappear until they enter a critical range. Reflective materials behave inconsistently depending on angle, surface condition, and weather. Ambient lighting is uneven. Urban areas may alternate between overlit intersections and completely dark stretches. Rural highways often lack consistent illumination altogether. This variation prevents drivers from maintaining a uniform visual strategy. Sound changes as well. With less traffic, individual engine noise, tire contact, and wind become more noticeable. However, the absence of background traffic removes a common reference point for judging relative speed and approach distance. Fatigue is not constant, but it is expected. Night shift professionals assume reduced alertness will occur at predictable intervals. Rather than resisting this, routines are designed to minimize unnecessary decisions during those periods. Stops are one of the most disruptive elements to routine. Each stop requires braking judgment, rear approach assessment, and re-entry into motion. At night, these actions consume more attention than they do during the day. As a result, night shift routines emphasize continuity. Routes are planned to reduce intersections. Tasks are sequenced to avoid repeated stopping. Communication is simplified, often relying on timing, location, or predefined procedures rather than ongoing verbal coordination. Routine replaces constant evaluation. This is not rigidity. It is load management. Night shift driving decisions are made with limited confirmation. Visual verification takes longer. Auditory cues are less reliable. There are fewer external signals indicating whether a choice was correct. Because feedback is delayed, professionals focus on decision stability rather than optimization. A decision that can be executed smoothly and repeatedly is favored over one that requires reassessment each time. Stopping introduces several uncertainties at night. A stationary vehicle is less visible than a moving one. Approach speeds of other vehicles are harder to judge. Restarting motion requires a fresh scan of an environment that may have changed during the stop. For this reason, night shift drivers often treat certain signals as conditional rather than absolute. The condition is not convenience. It is environmental confirmation. Signals designed for daytime congestion assume frequent cross-traffic. When cross-traffic is absent and sight lines are clear, the signal's coordination function is reduced. In these cases, stopping may increase exposure time without reducing conflict. Night shift professionals prioritize three factors consistently: clarity of sight lines, predictability of movement, and minimization of stationary time. They also deliberately ignore low-probability inputs. Excessive scanning for unlikely hazards reduces focus on likely ones. At night, attention must be rationed. Hesitation is costly. Indecision prolongs exposure and disrupts rhythm. Professionals learn to commit early to a course of action once sufficient confirmation is obtained. This logic is cumulative. It develops through repeated exposure to similar scenarios, not through isolated incidents. Many night shift operating rules are informal because they depend on context. One common rule is that signals are evaluated in relation to their functional purpose, not their physical presence. Permanent signals managing known conflict points retain priority. Advisory or temporary signals are reassessed based on time of day and traffic density. Experience allows drivers to recognize when a signal's original intent no longer applies. Another unwritten rule involves consistency. Once a driver determines how a specific signal behaves at night under certain conditions, they repeat that behavior whenever those conditions recur. Consistency reduces hesitation and mental friction. Night shift professionals also learn to trust direct observation over assumption. Clear line-of-sight confirmation carries more weight than abstract compliance when no conflicting movement is present. Instruction manuals rarely capture this nuance. They cannot account for the variability of nighttime environments. Experience fills that gap. These unwritten rules are not shortcuts. They are mechanisms for reducing uncertainty in systems with limited feedback. When night shift routines are followed, operations become smoother and more stable. Vehicles maintain controlled motion. Drivers conserve attention. Fatigue is managed through predictability rather than stimulation. Unnecessary stops fragment focus. Each stop introduces additional scanning, timing judgment, and restart effort. Over long shifts, these demands accumulate and increase cognitive load. Rigid adherence to signals that no longer manage real conflict can increase exposure without providing corresponding safety benefits. Conversely, ignoring signals that still serve an active coordination function introduces risk. Professionals differentiate between the two through experience. The outcomes are incremental. Reduced delay. Fewer abrupt speed changes. More consistent performance across extended hours. Night shift efficiency is measured in endurance and stability, not speed. Night shift road work operates under conditions of reduced information, delayed feedback, and constrained attention. Signals are interpreted through environment, routine, and accumulated experience rather than strict hierarchy. From outside the profession, this behavior may appear inconsistent. Within the work, it is structured, conservative, and practical. These patterns reflect how systems adapt when conditions change. They make sense only from inside the work itself.